Into your table.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to my channel. It's great to see you. I'm always wondering, has it actually gone live or not? You never 100% know. But I think we're live, and if we are and you can hear me, give me a like, give me a comment, or just say hello somehow. I've got an interesting morning ahead. I've got two founders joining us this morning, one with a really interesting business.
Hello.
And of course, Aiden will be helping. So we have two founders this morning with kind of two missions. One, to help them with their businesses and listen to their story and see how we can help them. And also see what they've got to say about things like the present government support mechanisms, what we could be doing to educate our children better when it comes to entrepreneurship. So Aiden will be a part of that conversation this morning, won't you, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aiden's going to help. So if you have any thoughts this morning, or you feel that there's any way you can help any of the founders, please feel free to comment. We'll be looking out keenly for your insights and thoughts. Equally, if you ever want to come on the live show, which I do every Wednesday at 8 a.m. UK time, you'd be more than welcome. Please feel free to connect via simonscrib.com, share your story, and then we'll schedule you in and see how we can help you, and also get you connected to our community of people that could help you also. Hi, Diana, how are you doing? So nice to hear from you. Thanks for your comment. So this is Diana. She's a friend from Hong Kong. You want to say hello? She just made a comment. Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I've known Diana, who just made a comment, long before you were even born. Can you imagine that?
No.
No, I can't imagine that either. Yeah. So just before we bring in our first guest this morning, I'll just mention that we have a fantastic podcast going live Thursday morning, 10 a.m. UK time on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. The guest is Adele Lim. Now, if you haven't heard of her, I'm pretty sure you've seen some of her work. She was the co-writer for Crazy Rich Asians, which I personally loved. I'm sure anyone that's actually watched the movie and ever spent any time in Asia would also have absolutely loved it. I not only love the scenery and the food, and I love the cultural insights that Adele brought to that movie. So she's working on a new project with Disney, fascinating story. I mean, ultimately, she describes herself as an entrepreneur writer, which I think is fascinating. A lot of people who are writers perhaps don't see themselves as entrepreneurs, but of course they are. So she'll be talking about her journey, how she ended up in America, her family culture, expectations, all pretty fascinating. And as an entrepreneur, how she managed to break into the TV world and then into the movie world. And I tell you, it's an inspiring story. She's a wonderful person to talk to, very straightforward, very honest. I think you'll really enjoy the podcast. So that's tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you join live, you'll be able to ask Adele some questions directly in the Q&A section. But of course, if you can't make it to the live broadcast tomorrow at 10, such is life, as they say, and you can still listen to the podcast anytime you want just by telling Siri or Alexa or any of those voice-activated systems to play the Good Luck Club podcast. So feel free to, as always, give me feedback on the podcast. We're now, I think, coming up to episode 40. So that's 40 hours of pretty interesting content. We're interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs and change makers. They're sharing their journey. They're giving you insights and telling you stuff that perhaps they've never told anyone before. I personally find interviewing these people absolutely fascinating. So I'm sure that you will find listening to them just as interesting. I have been an entrepreneur for the last 30 odd years, and I have learned something new every time I've listened to these entrepreneur stories. So there's always something to learn, even if you're an experienced entrepreneur. I'm pretty sure you'll find some of these stories fascinating. I've had people like Simon Long, who's built Wheeler Banks, which is now one of the largest online banks in the world. He built it from scratch 7 years ago when everyone told him getting into banking was a complicated, regulated world. Absolutely no point. It's been done. Banks will get better online. They were wrong. He was right. And now he has 43 million customers. Just an example of some of the superstar entrepreneurs that share their stories on the podcast. So you can grab all the podcasts as well through goodluckpod.com and of course through my website, simonscrib.com. So I also want to mention that we did and my video crew, we did an interview of Techstars guys in London last week. We were asking them about the future of cities and what they think it's going to look like post-COVID, how it's going to work in the business world, how it's going to work from gadgets and this and that they might see coming through their programs. Techstars, for those that don't know, is really one of the most advanced early stage investors in the world, in my view. And they see all the amazing companies, perhaps before anyone else does, and sometimes years before the general market gets to understand how big these potential ideas can be. So I interviewed the managing director of Techstars here in London, Eman and Takik, who basically runs the Barclays Accelerator program. And these guys, their insights are just fascinating. So I just put that interview up on YouTube. So again, all this content is free. And I think you'll find their insights into what the future might look like, both fascinating and useful. And I think for anyone out there that perhaps is looking for ideas of what the future might look like and looking for business ideas, or looking to evolve your business and know what the future might look like and evolve it accordingly, go listen to that Techstars interview on my YouTube channel. I just put it up. I think you guys will find it fascinating. At the weekend, I'll be releasing a video with a founder called Joanna Dye. She has a fascinating insight into the fashion world. She's launched her own fashion brand called Dye. She is changing the way fashion operates. She's not just selling clothes. She's built a community. She's focusing on women's wear. She wants women to feel comfortable at work, and she's built a whole ecosystem around the clothing brand, a community around the clothing brand where they can connect and share. And I think that is totally unique. It's not just selling clothes to someone, but it's being part of a community, and clothes being a part of that community. What makes you feel comfortable as a woman in business. And I absolutely loved her insights. So I'll be sharing that interview on at the weekend. So if you don't want to miss these insights, you don't want to miss these stories from founders, you can hit subscribe on YouTube, or you can go on to either thegoodluckpod.com and subscribe, or simonscrib.com and subscribe. And you can get all this stuff direct in your inbox, absolutely free, and hopefully you find it super useful. So yeah, I mean, I also want just to mention that there are a few interesting past live broadcasts that I've done that are well worth checking out. Last week, I spoke to 3 founders that were starting businesses during COVID. They were sharing ideas that I think just prove that even though it's a difficult time right now with COVID, it is absolutely the right time to start a business of your own. There is no better time than right now. And I know for some people that might seem absolutely insane, but I'm here to tell you that, you know, even for myself, and I've started 17 companies in my career, the ones that have done well have often been ones that were in downturn. So for example, I started an agency called Fluid in 2001, around focusing on digital marketing. And when everyone else was saying that after the dot-com bust, digital was done and it really wasn't going to be the big thing that everyone predicted, and that doing a digital branding agency was kind of going backwards, back into the dot-com era. And ironically, it was actually going forwards, and I was absolutely right. 2016, I sold that business to PwC. So you know, I always think that people might tell you that it's not the right time, or they might say that your idea is rubbish. And often I think if people don't understand your idea, it's actually a compliment. And so yeah, so that's it. Now, I just want to check my first guest, what's going on. Let's just see. Can't see them on here. Just so I'm going to contact my PA and just find out where the new first guest is. Okay, so modern technology. In the meantime, oh, morning, Alex. How you doing? Well, Alex is my guest after the one I'm just waiting for now that can't seem to get online. So, Alex, if you're listening, maybe jump into the room early, mate, because my first guest can't seem to get online at the moment, so we can have a longer chinwag. So, Alex Hughes is the next guest coming up. He is, well, I always find him hard to describe because I feel like he's a kindred spirit. He is running a community called Shifties, which I think is his way of networking, is the future of networking. He is basically giving. And that's why I say a kindred spirit to me. I feel like just trying to help people and their businesses be successful. he has this kind of co-grow model, which I absolutely believe in. I think it's for me, that's the future. Nobody's alone, basically. I think if you're trying to build a business or survive right now, one thing I think COVID has done is it has actually brought people together. I mean, I know even from my street, for example, I've lived in this street in London for 3 years, and COVID kind of brought us all out into the street to thank the NHS, and then the neighbours, we all wave at each other, we all get to know each other. So for me, I think this is the time to come together and help each other. So yeah, for sure, right now is the best time to start a business, and having people like Alex, who will join us in a second, he's just getting hooked in, having people like Alex help you, or people like Alex making the effort to give and help people, I think is what's really changing. Not just the UK, where I'm living right now, and what Alex is focused on, but the whole world, actually. I mean, I've noticed my hometown, I feel like sometimes I can say it, of Hong Kong, the people there are just banding together and trying to help each other. There's political mayhem in the background, we all know that, and political interference, but ultimately the people are actually what makes a country work. It's a bit like a company. The people in the company actually make a company work. So the management can actually be crap, but the people are good and they care about the purpose of the business, they can make it work. So I actually sometimes feel like saying my own new platform, I've noticed that the people I have helping me with the Good Luck Club and our mission of helping 1 million people start a business of their own, I think the people I've got now in the organization helping me, if I wasn't around, I reckon it would still work, because they're good people and they care. And so I think that people piece is so important. And Alex, who's going to join us in a second, personifies this. He is an entrepreneur himself. He has built an ecosystem trying to help young entrepreneurs and present entrepreneurs that are running businesses and perhaps struggling through COVID. And I love what he's doing. So I thought I'd have him come on the show this morning, tell you a little bit about what he's doing, and tell you a little bit about his thoughts on things like what the government funding mechanism in the UK is doing that might be interesting to some of you listening this morning. And we'll also talk about things like education, which I know Alex has a son. He will talk about it, I'm sure, but he had a son quite young in life. And he'll talk about what he sees now with his son, very talented young man who I've also spoken to, with huge potential. And Alex and I talk often about how perhaps education needs to be reformed. So I'd love your views out there, folks. If you think education works for you, works for your kids, doesn't work for you, let us know what you think. If you've got any questions for Alex on the concept of networking, which is something we'll be discussing this morning, feel free to chime in. I don't know if you guys out there are part of any present networks that you really think work. Personally, my personal instinct is right now a lot of the networks are a bit too commercial. They're looking at ways to make money out of you through membership, and then therefore all exclusive. So, I know there's some really interesting organizations out there, but they're, as I say, a bit exclusive or expensive. And I like the idea of creating a network that just is there to help people regardless of benefit to you. I'm personally trying to do that with this network. I'm trying to build an ecosystem that isn't about me charging you for my advice, that isn't about me figuring out ways to monetize you as a listener. I'm just thinking about you as a listener. What can I do to help you? And that's my personal mandate is how can I help 1 million people start a business of their own? And I think that is the way to operate a network. And so Alex will join us in a second and talk about his network. But I'd be really interested in anyone out there that has a network of their own and they would like to promote on my broadcast that might be useful to the entrepreneurial community. I think that's, for me, I don't see other people's networks as competition. I see those networks as further value add to my community. And I can say that because I'm not trying to commercialize my own network. I'm just trying to figure out ways to get people what they need, either the resources to start a business of their own, so that might be insights or contact, or an idea to start a business is something I'm working on right now with my team. A lot of people say they're willing to do their own business, but they don't have a good idea. So I'm actually working right now on ideas that I think could be useful for the people that have asked me for ideas. So we'll be sharing that soon. Again, though, if anyone out there feels like they have good ideas for businesses and they either want someone to help them start it, or you feel like you want to share those ideas and allow people out there that are looking for ideas to start a business to do it, then let me know. I know that sounds sometimes for some people slightly counterintuitive. Why would you give away an idea? I personally found it to be quite liberating. So I have quite a few interesting ideas, like doing a property agency when you sell the property, the profit goes to help the homeless. You know, I kind of think, I'm going to work on this, I'm working on this. But for anyone out there that likes the idea and even wants to copy it and do it, then frankly, my mission will still be solved. I think nobody should be homeless in this day and age. Absolutely ridiculous in my view. So if you want to copy my idea and build a successful business that does this wonderful thing, then copy me or do it yourself. Or even better, reach out to me and let me know how I can help you do it. Or I'm going to do it. But I feel like with these ideas, it's kind of like that. You know, the best ideas are worth sharing and seeing what pops out from them. I always suggest to people that have a good idea, share it. You might be shocked how useful the community is. And I think people are always fearful that if they share their idea, it's going to get copied. Well, first of all, it's the biggest compliment you could possibly have if someone does copy it. And second, if the idea is purposeful and they copy it, it's good. So if someone copies my property agency idea and then goes and helps the homeless, then for me, it's still a win. You know, so I feel like, yeah, that's the idea. Now, Alex is here. So I'm going to bring Alex on. He's going to tell us about his amazing community, what he's doing to help young entrepreneurs and his present community of hardworking entrepreneurs. We'll talk a little bit about education, so feel free to throw in some questions if you have them. And I'm going to bring Alex on now.
Hey, man.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Very good. Very good. I just need to adjust my camera. You hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, we can. I can hear you anyway, so I think everyone else can too. How's it going this morning, mate?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Usual, kind of getting nice and early where I can. Just getting.
Yeah, you're actually in the office. I'm still at home, so that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, it's got so good to have the hub back. Like just the environment of being. You know what it's like when you've got that energy in a building. It's so nice to be back.
Yeah, and it's exactly the community piece. So it's glad that you've opened up again. Alex, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself for a few minutes? Because I mean, I've given you an introduction, but I don't think I'll ever do as good as you will explaining what you're up to. So I've told people about Shifties and what you're doing, but please, in your own words, tell people a little bit about yourself. My son will sit in and listen too.
Oh, wicked. Hey.
Hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Alex.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
Awesome.
So one of the many benefits of actually still working from home this morning.
Well, you've seen the size of my son. I can't sit him on my lap anymore. It would squash me.
Yeah, well, you could try if you want to lose your kneecap. It's all good.
Yeah, so essentially, kind of, I've been in business for best part of 5 years, or at least trying to be. And when I worked in the corporate world before, I was working for a pharmaceutical company as a project manager, and essentially managing multiple projects at any one time kind of got me thinking, well, imagine if they were my projects and they were my budgets and they were my resources. And, you know, if I could spread that across multiple different entities, what that would look like for the business and our success. So I took the leap with Christine, my fiance, a few years ago. We started a little laundry service business. My grandma started it 39 years ago. She sadly passed away a couple of years ago. And that was our kind of first introduction to business. I thought, well, it's a nice, simple business. Kind of, you know, people, you know, pay us to pick up their laundry. It's cleaned, it's ironed, it's returned. You know, nice and simple, right? So I had this one thing. Like, right, all we've got to do is get busy. That's our only aim. Let's just get busy and everything will be okay. I can quit my job. We can go for it. As you well know, Simon, getting busy is not a really good tactic. So we got very busy. So the turnover of the business grew exponentially. We grew that business at a fantastic rate. And we thought, well, that's just not giving us the lifestyle we need. That's not giving us the opportunity we thought we were taking. So we started to question it, and we started to educate ourselves and start almost being reintroduced to education, because I left school, as you know, at a very young age. I left school, I pretty much checked out at 14. And at that stage, I was like, I'd given up on education. I'd given up on the education system. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was the way it was being taught. My issue wasn't that I didn't want to learn. I needed to learn, but the way it was being taught just wasn't for me. So I really committed myself to kind of self-development, start to reach out to people that were more successful than myself, reach out to other entrepreneurs, investors, people that I've come on to meet since, like yourself, that have kindly given me their time and helped me understand how they've achieved this success. And what we realized very quickly was we needed to grow. We needed a bigger team. We needed a bigger portfolio. So we then had an opportunity to purchase a commercial cleaning company, which we did 3 and a bit years ago, and that gave me the opportunity to bring Christine's sister, so my sister-in-law, Nicola, into the business to run that. And it was a nightmare initially. We it was doing about, I don't know, 100 and something K turnover a year when we first started, and within like 2 or 3 weeks we lost a third of the business. It was unfortunate. It was, due diligence was done. It was no major issues were flagging up. It was just unfortunate. Well, again, here we are again, right? We almost nearly got forced into, let's just get busy, let's just run at this thing. But we didn't. We took a different tactic, and in order to grow that business, I tried to apply the same principles to the consumer market, to the B2B world, and it just didn't work. Like, I realized in the B2B world, you can't just run Facebook ads and Instagram ads and just expect it all to work. It's more about networking. It's more about relationships. It's more about trying to tactically grow with the right people. So I started networking, and it was like, I've never seen anything like this before. I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going to these events and all sorts. Some of them were okay, but these ones in particular I'm talking about are the ones that you have to pay well over £1,000 to be part of the group. It's all about kind of your exclusivity within being in that group. And it was all very cold to me. It was very transactional way of doing networking, and I stuck with it for a year because I didn't know anything else. I didn't know there was anything else out there. I started trying different things. But it got to a point about 2 years later, and I won't give you the long story. There are other businesses created along the way, and we've had a lot of different attempts at different businesses. Some are success, some not. But one thing for sure, I was like, this can't be the way. This can't be the way to network. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better, more inclusive way of building relationships and creating opportunities to collaborate with people and work with others. So we started initially. Actually, someone's just reminded. And I've got this. By the way, you're live in Shifties as well at the same time. I got some people saying, just reminded me. We had an event we started with a company over in St Ives called Big Bear Creative. We had an event called Big Bear Learning. And the premise for the event was it's a free event once a month, and we'd have a speaker, try and get that high energy in the room, and there was lots of kind of open networking. Business cards were banned. It was just kind of come and learn, meet people, and it was great fun. Unfortunately, it kind of didn't happen, didn't work out for many reasons. The focus wasn't quite there where it needed to be. So again, I was left kind of, okay, there needs to be a solution here. So 6 of us got together and went for a curry one evening. This is how most good business ideas are founded, right? So we went for a curry, and just the premise for the meeting was, the event was, we're going to get together, we're going to have a curry, we have a few beers, we're going to chat business. That's it. We're just going to chat. And then that 6 people turned into 12 people. And that 12 people turned into 20 people. And next thing I know, I was like, right, I've got to create a brand around this. And this is where Shifties came about. And I called it Shifties really because why not? Like most business names that we've got, it seems like everyone was like, oh, you've got to call it the Shift Momentum Movement or the Shift Momentum Community, or, they were trying to tie it to the business, but that wasn't the idea. Shift Momentum is kind of my overarching brand. We've got multiple resources in different areas from, whereas I might work with someone on their strategy, we might work with people to help them get investment. We have our incubators here in Sydney. It's our momentum hubs. We've got a new premises coming very soon and others in the pipeline. and everyone was trying to tie it to shift momentum. But I was actually trying to separate it, because I wanted it to be a place where people felt comfortable and safe to network, bring their challenges, celebrate success, network, have a good time, and collaborate. And that was very difficult to do if people were thinking, oh, but what, I wonder what this, what am I in a funnel? Am I in a funnel? It's that classic problem when you're trying to do something like that. So Shifties was born really out of necessity, to create a platform to enable people to connect, learn, and grow, which is our 3 pillars of focus at the moment. So the idea is that you come into the Shifties community, and we're developing this. It's taking some time, but we're certainly getting there. We just got just over 800 members now in the community, and the idea is that you come in and you will be wowed. I mean, you're in there now, Simon. You know what it's a very unique place.
Really.
And you should, when you enter that community, feel this sense of community. You should feel this sense of I'm welcome to be myself here. Put the bullshit, excuse my language, put the business cards and the boomph and all of that stuff away. We don't need that. I want to get to know you, Simon. What you do in business is almost irrelevant to me right now. I want to understand who you are, and how can I better understand who you are in order to help me better understand who I am and what I'm focused on. So whereas all the other events and the old school way of networking is, we have one plumber in the room, one electrician, one accountant, etc., etc. Whereas we're saying, no, seek out the other people in your field. So if you're a videographer, seek out the other videographers in the group. Look for opportunity to share your knowledge, share leads, share. It's all about trying to collaborate. So, as you know, there is no scarcity in business. There's no shortage of opportunities in the marketplace. So to try and do this and try and keep it to yourself all the time was unproductive, quite frankly. And then as we've been growing, the community's been developing. We've started to. We've basically I've got myself to a position now where the other businesses I'm involved in. So, for instance, Snuggeries, which you're well aware of. We're waiting to build you a podcast studio when you're ready. Again, a guy called Cliff Gibson. I used to work with him back in the pharmaceutical world. He went off and did property and went all in on building houses and building really cool stuff. I went down the business route, and we've kind of rekindled that relationship in the last year or so, and actually decided to form a company. And we've now merged our portfolios together as we plow on into the next stage of our journey. That is doing that over and over and over and over again. So start a business or have an idea and find people to enjoy that business with has always been my approach. I don't want to do the work. I don't, and I'm happy to say that I'm selfish in that sense. I don't want to, if I'm having to run 8 different companies, then I'm not going to be very productive. Let's be honest. So a month ago, I stepped down from all of the boards of my businesses that I'm involved in, and I've given myself the opportunity. I'm still a shareholder, of course. I'm still there to advise and still support and champion those businesses. They're part of the portfolio. But my role now is all in on Shifties. It's all about creating this community of entrepreneurs that want to connect, learn, and grow together. That's our mission.
I've been watching your journey and watching what you're doing, and just for the audience listening, again, I just think it's an amazing thing to watch. And I just saw your cut there. You're being very polite this morning. It's get shit done is the kind of, the whole.
Absolutely. That's the whole. So actually, interestingly, Simon. So I mentioned my business partner, a couple of my business partners. Well, we formed a holding company. We've merged our portfolios. My holding company is called. Christine and I are obviously joint shareholders on this. Is Get Shift Done Limited, and Cliff's is Get Shift Build Limited, and Cameron's, who's my accountant and now FD in this portfolio, is Get Shift Adding Up Limited.
Watch out, Virgin.
I'm coming for you.
Virgin. I mean, one that actually has a mobile phone network that works, for example.
Yeah,
You could get
get
broadband done, shifty broadband, please. That would be awesome. But I'm going to share Alex's links right now, folks, so you can all see what he's up to. I think Alex is one of these kind of very humble people that is also very transparent and an interesting combo. He's actually achieving amazing things, and I think that for a lot of people out there, he kind of ticks quite a few boxes. First of all, he's built his own businesses. He's also worked for other people, so he knows the strength and weakness of that environment. He's also then taking his own time out, because Shift is, right now he's not focused on making money in that community. He's just figuring out how to help people in that community succeed. And what's beautiful about that is that that community then also looks at ways to help not only Alex, but the rest of the community. And I think that's the future of, you're saying, Alex, that is the future of networking. I absolutely love your way of looking at it. And it's kind of shocking that in this day and age, like you say, the old network systems, a lot of it, first of all, was offline. And like you say, it's like, okay, the first thing you see about someone is what they do. And then they try to give you a business card. And, and anyone that's actually been in business, it's why a lot of these networks are never run by entrepreneurs like you. They're often run by people that just see a way of making money by building a network. But actually, what people really care about is that personal relationship. Because like you say, as entrepreneurs, we might be involved in lots of different businesses. We might also not have no business at all right now that matters about, getting you as a client. But that relationship build piece can convert into anything. And you've done that exceedingly well. You've built friendships for your community, and then you've started businesses because of those friendships and the community, right? So it was nothing to do about you met someone and this is what they were doing and you bought or didn't buy their product. And it was all about understanding that person, what their moral code is, what's important to them, what their skill set is, regardless of their job role right now, and then building something up with them around that, which I think is unique, and it shouldn't be, but it is very unique about you and about your network. And so, I think it's exciting for anyone listening to also realize that there's networks out there like that, because most people I know, when they think of networks that can help them, they instantly think, oh, it's a monthly fee. And frankly, how can they really help me? They're looking to help themselves, really. They're not really looking to help me. I mean, I just had, even in Hong Kong, where I was living for a long time, which I think is a very advanced city, and I haven't lived in Hong Kong for 3 years. I've been living in London. And one of the networks just sent me an invite to give a keynote speech at their gala event, right? Because Hong Kong's not in the same lockdown right now as we've got here, so they're still doing some things like this. But the point I'm trying to make is, I haven't even been in Hong Kong for 3 years, and they don't know. They didn't even take the time to, it would have taken 1 second to look at my LinkedIn and see that I'm in London and I've got a podcast show operating out of London. All they thought really was, well, let's leverage this person to help us. They weren't really looking at what I need. Not that I need anything, because I actually don't need anything, but I think that's what's so unique about what you're doing, is that it's personal. I guess, in a business context, the tricky thing with something like that is scaling it, right? But you're managing to scale it as well, which is amazing.
We're managing, it's probably one of the biggest challenges I've experienced so far in business, is in that it's obviously, like you rightly said, and thank you. That's very, very kind words as always. But I think one of the biggest challenges we have is of any community, I think, whether it be online, offline, regardless, is maintaining those relationships, maintaining those connections. So for me, it's all of the focus right now is on the connect element of the connect, learn, grow. So later on, there'll be so much more value within the community with more speakers like yourself, more conversations like this, workshops. There'll be a directory on the website. It will be everything that you need, and we'll look to learn and grow with that. But right now, for me, the focus is how can we maintain that level of trust and relationships and transparency within the community as we look to scale. So right now we're at 820 odd members. I monitor I don't monitor kind of likes and comments and stuff like that in socials. What I will do is I'll look at the analytics to see the engagement level, the activity levels. So, you know, a lot of people kind of watch, as you know, especially nowadays, people will kind of absorb, they'll watch, they might not interact with everything, but then an email will go out in the back end, and then they'll be like, oh, I tuned into that Simon interview, it was gold, or I was thinking about coming to that event, I haven't managed to come yet. And I've never seen them interact in the group. So we've maintained about 80% activity level within the community, which is fantastic. I want to maintain that level of energy and opportunity for people. So for us, yeah, it's quite the challenge to scale it, but we're building the team. You know, we've got a really talented team here at Shift. I think we can do it, and we will definitely be disrupting that world. It no longer does a scarcity win-lose mindset work. It's not for now. You can't have that mindset. I've had a lot of mentors over the years, and some of the earlier mentors that helped me get to a place, and this is not to disrespect anyone, absolutely. I think you should outgrow your mentor. Like, your mentor should want you to outgrow them, you know. So I'm very, very quick to, I just take as much as I can from someone. So if you've ever been to, Christine will tell you, when we go to like networking events or seminars or something, you know, I always pay extra and I sit up front. You know, I want to make sure I'm sat up front because I want to be around the other people that want to be sat up front, right? The conversation is very different there. So I will ask someone flat out, I'm like, hey, how'd you make your money? Tell me, you know, I'll just break that barrier. Like, immediately, it's just gone. You break those barriers with those sort of questions. So, and I'll just learn and absorb. So once I've done that, once I've got what I need, you know, we've had, I'm happy to share, you know, we had conversations early on when we first initially having conversations. And me and you had an hour or so chat, and we got real deep into it. I went off and you basically broke my brain for like a month while I worked things out again. And then we come back, sat down. I said, look, this is my plan. This is my strategy. This is what I'm looking to do. And you said, yep, great. That works. Let me know if you need something. No problem. Thank you very much. And here we are. So, you know, it's good to do that. So the older, some of my mentors I started with may have told me to kind of, a lot of the advice was fly under the radar. It was very much kind of just, you know, keep going, you know, it's all about profit. It's all about profit. And for me, the definition of profit has just completely changed. You know, I'm not a financially driven person. I'm not. You know, yes, it's one measure of success, but I would, as soon as we reach the next level of profit, anyone will tell you that knows me, we hire, we recruit, we look for talent. We're not finished. We're just starting. You know, we are just starting. We are now about, across the board, probably pushing on 60 people involved, whether it be employed or partnered or whatever. I want that to be 600. I want to give as much opportunity to those not only in the community, but also, you know, the next generation of entrepreneurs, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I think we have a I don't know what the right word is. You know, it's our moral codes that we need to make sure that we keep connecting, we keep bringing more people into the fold. It's so crucial to our growth and their growth.
Yeah, I could just sit back and listen to you, Alex, because I feel like
Sorry,
I mean I'm enjoying it. You know, and so many things you've said there resonate with me. I mean, right now we have 38 people listening, and I know that you know, people, like you were saying earlier, some people will contribute, some people will learn, and some people will take something from it and go and apply it. You know, like, and I think, you know, what you're talking about here around one of the things, a couple of things I want to make sure people don't miss, actually, that it's really important. I think this not driven by money thing is actually really important, but hard for people to grasp if they're not paying the bills or they've got a mortgage to pay, or, you know. And I think there's an element of it which is, you know, there's some irony to it, because if you care about the business you're involved in, it's like people that work for NGOs, for example. You know, they get up every day and they're excited about making a difference and making the place that they live in a better place than the one that they found, right? And so they're fulfilled. And yes, they might not have a fancy car or a big house, but they enjoy their day to day. And I think that's really the point, isn't it? You know, if you can enjoy your day to day and make money, then great. Right.
Absolutely.
But that's not the most important thing, you know. And the most making money isn't. The most important thing is enjoying your day. And I think what you're also saying there, because you're driven by helping other people. I've known that from the first time we ever spoke. And so this employment thing, especially now, I wish everyone had this mindset. You know, if every big company in England, just let's just take this small island.
Yeah.
Everybody in England said, you know what, all the profits we're going to make from our businesses, instead of paying it to shareholders that are already rich, we're going to do what the country needs and hire people.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to grow the business with our people. You know, that imagine the world we'd live in 3 years from now if everyone followed the Alex Hughes model. Okay, not only would those businesses be better off long term, it's much more. Instead of paying people a quarter, these rich shareholders out a quarter, why not hire people? Right now, I don't think there could be a better company policy than that. All this bullshit company policies that these companies put out there about caring about people, as they cut them from their payroll and figure out ways to charge people more for the same thing so they can make more profit. You know, I'm not anti-capitalist at all. I am a capitalist, but I ultimately think capitalism should be leveraged to do good. Yeah. So, you know, I think businesses like yours deserve to be, you know, not only 600 people strong, but frankly, you know, held up as an example of how business should be done.
I appreciate that.
And I think it's one of those kind of examples in business that you're demonstrating there that it isn't held up as a hero enough. I mean, I get a bit tired of, you know, here's a billionaire, you know, look, as if that matters.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
You know, like, here's a billionaire. Like, I mean, I don't want to get political, but someone like Donald Trump, that's his kind of whole election campaign. I'm a billionaire, so therefore I know how to run a country. Now, we've all seen that that's not true, right?
Absolutely.
So the point is that ultimately it should never be about how much money you've got, and it should all be about what the purpose of your business is. And I think that's what I really love about you. Can I just take a step back on something you said earlier? I just want to ask a question. You mentioned earlier about buying a business. I'm always up for like teaching people what goes wrong. And you mentioned you bought a business and then you had some lessons. Were there any tips for people out there? Because I know a few people right now, I know a few of my listeners are actually thinking of buying businesses. Was there any, like you said you did the due diligence, was there any particular tips there that you think?
Yeah, I think one thing for sure when looking to buy a business, and it's something that we've just been through 2 mergers as well. So, you know, it's something that I think it's a great. Buy a bit. Don't buy a franchise. Buy a business. You know, I feel like, you know, a lot of franchises, and this is not a dig on franchises at all. I looked at franchises. Some of them are great. Some of them, quite frankly, are just flat out pyramid schemes, and you need to avoid them like the plague. However, you know, when you are looking to buy a business, I think one thing for sure, understand the motive of the person that's selling it. You know, really understand why it is that they're selling that business, why they're getting out. You know, and then you, from that point, you need to enroll, pay for the help, like get the legal and get the legal team and the accounts team to do their diligence. Like don't pretend like you can do it all, because you can't, and you can't look deep enough. So we had our accountant work for the deal, took 6 months. Our accountant spent time with their accountant, really understanding their balance sheet, digging deep into their finances. You know, we had 14 years of accounts that they went through with a fine-tooth comb. I set up, I as part of the deal, I set up kind of covert meetings with the owner. You know, we were working, I was liaising with them to say, right, I'd like you to set up 3 meetings with your top clients, your top contracts. And then I'll be a fly on the wall in those conversations. I just want to see how they interact. Because again, like, as you rightfully say, it's all about the relationship, and especially in the B2B world, I want to understand if shift hits the fan, then I want to know that relationship can stand its ground. So I think that it's all about the people for me. You know, you're an investor, or you've been an investor for a long time. You know, the CEO is so important in that process of consideration. You're investing in the person. You're not investing in the business. You can have a fantastic business or a great idea, great product, but if the CEO has got a terrible mindset and they've got ulterior motives, have they been just sucking the business dry of its profits, then that for me is a massive red flag. So I think it's it's certainly focus on the CEO, focus on that side of things.
You think it was the leadership that you need? Did they stay in the business when you bought it, or did it?
They did. Actually, unfortunately, ironically, the person who we bought this from was retiring, and although built good reputation, no issue there. Actually, his leadership was actually pretty poor, and the team, when we found out, we couldn't contact the team. It wasn't until we were in there that found actually that the team morale was very low. So I saw that equally, if I didn't have the leadership skills that I've had, and I've been through a lot of development, this isn't something you're born with. 10 years ago, I was sat working IT. That actually popped up in my Facebook memories, and I'm sat there and work. Have you seen the IT Crowd? Have you seen that program, the IT Crowd?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my life for a few years when I first started my career. I lived in a server room playing World of Warcraft. I had very long hair, and I didn't speak to people. So
wow, which is completely the opposite to the person I see today.
I hated my pictures being taken. This would never have happened 10 years ago, So, I've been through a lot of leadership development, and that then allows me, again, it's what you said earlier. It's where does your skill sets resolve or complement the situation? Whether you're looking to merge, or you're looking to buy a business, or you're looking to hire, I never think about me as a person. I think of me as a role. So I look at a business and I'll map out the structure. I say, well, this is the existing structure. What roles is it missing? And this business just so happened to be missing an operations manager and a CEO. I could be the CEO, and Nicola would have been a fantastic operations manager. So we just put those two roles in, restructured the business, and do that day one. So tip number 5, or whatever I'm at here, is like, if you're going to restructure the business, do it day one. Don't take 4, 6, 8 weeks thinking about it, because people get confused, they get scared, they already assume you're the worst enemy. I was turning up on site, and here I am, like, genuinely, this guy was just going to scrap his business, and these employees wouldn't have a job. They'd be out of a job. And we were turning up on site, Nicola and I were turning up on site. And it was like I was the devil or something. It was like they genuinely hated me, and I hadn't met them yet. And that wasn't my intention. Our intention wasn't to disrupt them. It was to disrupt the industry, the contracts that were in there. We've now since, as a company, and Christine was the CEO up until a year, and there's a whole story there around using businesses as vehicles to grow, but I won't go into it. But essentially, Nicola has 2 young children. Silvertone was very heavy. We grew that business exponentially. Again, we've grown 300% year on year since we took that business on. And Nicola has now left that business, is running another business which we set up that only operates between 9 and 3 o'clock Monday to Friday, so she can have the lifestyle she wants with her kids. Christine's been running Silvertone for a little while, and we've now we've put a structure in place the contracts with our clients, that they're locked in and rolling contracts, built-in RPI increases, because you're maximizing the value of your business. The business like that, where you're service-based, when we valued the business, the guy had some ridiculous valuation in his mind about how much his business was worth. As always, I'm sure you're well versed in that area. And we had our view was the business is only worth as much as the length of the notice period on those contracts. So we rebuilt all of the contracts. We've renegotiated with all our clients. They're now all locked in on rolling contracts with built-in RPI, long periods on the notice periods. And that allows us to give confidence to our staff, whereby, for instance, Nanny, who has just, she's been with the business for a little while, Nanny Sales. So she's a Brazilian lady, and she's worked for us a little while. Her English was terrible. She'll be more than happy for me to tell her that. Her English when she first started was terrible, but you could see leadership ooze from her. So she just, her work ethic, she would bring people along. Go, we can do this. She's a fantastic person. So we've spent the last 6 to 9 months, we paid for her English lessons. And now Christine's setting up leadership development for her, and she will go on to run the operations of that business. which is just fantastic.
I mean, you've just got so much knowledge, Alex, because you've gone through it all and you kind of know what it's like. I think that just makes you the perfect person to lead shifties as you do. I just want to highlight again what you said earlier, which I completely agree with, which is, buy a business, not a franchise. And I agree, you're not slagging off franchises, but I think what I see with a lot of franchises, and a lot of my community think about how to start a business. They don't necessarily have an idea, so the franchise seems like the idea. But the danger with a franchise that I see is that you can end up actually working for someone in disguise.
Yep.
It looks like you're working for yourself, but actually you're not. You're working for the McDonald's Corporation, and
learn from those. Learn from that. Like I love. Christine would tell you, I walk into McDonald's. I love it. I look at it, and I'm like, not just the food. I love the breakfast, but I love the. I'm a big believer in systemizing and processing.
Totally. And actually, McDonald's is a good example of a franchise that's made a lot of people very rich.
Absolutely.
But I think, your point that you said that I think is kind of the gold in all this is that a few things you've said are amazing, but the gold piece in all this for me is that you've got to look at what the owners of the business's motivation is. Yeah. Right. So in fairness to McDonald's, I mean, I've gone off it in recent years, but in fairness to them, there's a great movie that was, I say it's a great movie. It's an interesting movie to watch on Netflix about the founder of McDonald's and how it all started out, right? Which is a whole, the founder of McDonald's wasn't actually the founder of McDonald's. The founder of McDonald's was two brothers that just wanted to cook good burgers and people have a really nice experience, a quick, tasty meal full of health, right? And the original milkshakes, for example, were real cream and real tasty, almost you could consider healthy. And then this guy came in and systemized it. One of the things he did is he put powdered milkshakes in there, which made it less healthy but easier for the business, right? Anyway, the point I'm making is that motivation behind the people running it is important. My experience as an investor has always been kind of two models that work. One is you invest, as you say, not in a business, but in a person that's motivated and excited about that business, and they're going to run it and you're going to support them. Or you run it. I think sometimes people they get caught between the two. They think, I'll buy it, that person can run it, and I'll sit on the sidelines, and then that person's not motivated and not going to run it. You're also not excited about it, so you don't want to go and run it, and then it doesn't work. Yeah. So one of my view is one of the two sides of the equation needs to be excited. There is a third model, just for my listeners and to discuss it with you, and I'd be interested in your opinion. There's a third model that I play around with these days, which is the venture building model, which is basically where we all have an idea, and then we find the perfect person to run it, and we make them a significant shareholder in that business, and then back that person and that idea to run it. Right? Those are the three formulas, in my opinion, that works. You invest in someone that's got an existing business, totally motivated, and they run it. Or you can buy it, but make sure that you own it, and you're not accidentally working for someone else's brand. You own it ideally. And I've seen franchises. A friend of mine, for example, he took the franchise for Perrier water in China. But he did it 20 years ago. He took the exclusive import. In China, Perrier water didn't care about China. They didn't think that they could afford their water. So he said, oh, yeah, you're probably right. Let me be the exclusive import on Perrier water forever, and I'll distribute it and sell it, and I probably won't make any money, but I'll do it. And they said yes. And it's now their biggest market, but he owns the import rights to it.
Wow, that's a good one.
So it's not his brand.
No.
Right? They built that brand up. You could argue it's a quality brand or not, depending on your view, but it's a brand that he now in effect owns in China, which is now Perrier's largest market. So to me that's a smart franchise.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it. What you don't want to do is have a 1-year deal with Perrier to distribute, and then they say, oh my God, this is going to be our biggest market. Let's just not renew that and stick our own management team in there.
Because that's what will happen in most scenarios. That's what will happen. Of
course. I mean, I don't care how nice the company is or how grateful they are that you spent a year building it. In the end, they've got shareholders and they're capitalists. They're not going to give you $1 billion business if they don't have to. So I think that's the insight I think you're sharing there to kind of elongate it a bit. I think it's actually a really important point, and I think your lesson there about your experience is another nugget. So I mean, I know I also want to talk to you. We've only got 5 minutes left, and I know you've got to get on with your day. But I wanted to talk a little bit about education, because I know this is something dear to you as well. I mean, you know my view, and my audience probably know my view already. I'm worried about the education system. I've got a 3-year-old that's coming up into it. You've had a son go through it already.
Yeah.
But I'm worried that it's not built for the future. I worry that it's a bit like you were talking about the network model that you've reinvented with Shifties. I feel like school is a similar problem. You know, It's all about grades and it's all about memorizing, when frankly we've got Google these days. I'm not saying we don't need a memory, but it's built in there naturally. We don't necessarily need to remember certain things. We've got Google.
Yeah.
So, you know, we should be leveraging the human ability in other areas. And I do think entrepreneurship in particular is completely underrepresented within the school system.
Agreed.
What do you feel about it? What's the solution? What's your view?
Okay, 5 minutes. I have to crack my neck before we go into this one. Yeah, I think it's obviously a massive frustration. And one thing I would say is, if a conversation that comes up a lot is, well, if that works for you, and this is the same for business, and the same, you know, if you're cool just doing things on your own, and you know you're earning decent whack, you're fulfilled, happy days, everything, you're feeling good. The most important thing is you're feeling good, you're fulfilled. Crack on. Very happy for you. Same with the education system. If you are super hyped up about learning, you love learning that way, and you love college and you love university, you can't wait. It's your dream to go to university and meet people, and you want to, you know, for instance, if I was going to go to university and study economics or something, I would love that. That would be, I would enjoy that process of doing that. I'd do it for the love of studying economics. But for 80% of people, or 80% of kids, and I pick a number here, that's probably not right. They shouldn't be going to university to study a very specific subject that they probably don't really want to go and study for X number of years and rack up a load of debt. It's just bonkers. It's just bonkers to me. So I promised Flynn, so my son's Flynn, he's 17, he turned 17 last week. He needs to hurry up and learn to drive now so he can chauffeur me around. I promised him when he was 14, 15, I'd never ask him what he wants to do with his life. That question, what do you want to do, is the worst question you can ask a kid. It's terrible. They don't know. Why would they know? They have no idea. So for me, the solution has to be early doors, and we need help from the government here. We need help from the capitalist environment, which, like you say, can be a very positive thing. We need to all be aligned on giving these kids from the age of 15 to 18, or maybe even up to 21. They need exposure. That's what they need. They need exposure to different things in life, and that isn't just skills and different businesses and different areas, whether it be engineering or sales or whatever. That's experience and exposure to life generally. So my advice to Flynn, and I hope he takes it, and he's at this kind of break period where he's done 1 year at college, is don't just quit college. Quit college. Go earn money. Right, nothing wrong with going to making the aim in the short term for next, say, 2-3 years. Go earn money, understand and manage your own money, which is a really important step that all kids need to take, and that we don't put enough emphasis into this. And then in the meantime, go and explore the world. Go and explore your environment. Go and explore opportunities to meet new people, have ideas, try them. There probably should be a framework built around this, but right now, Google it. Go to the government website and put in engineering, so you can look for apprenticeships. You won't find an entrepreneurship apprenticeship. You won't find one. It's unbelievable. But you'll find 190 engineering apprenticeships, which is good. We need lots. We need engineers. Engineers are an important part of our economy.
It's all about balance, isn't it? You need people that are creating jobs as well, right? I mean,
exactly. But you need to have. So let's take a perfect example, right? So let's take Dirty Rascals. So we got a startup we started about a year or so ago. We're getting there. It's a slow burner. We've done one bike already. Essentially, it's custom motorcycles. So Michael had this idea. Michael Russell, you'll meet him at some point. You'll love him. He's an ex Bentley engineer. He's now an entrepreneur, owns a couple of companies over Cambridge Way. And And we had this idea that we want to create awesome custom bike kits, right? So we want to take a motorbike, strip it back, build a custom kit, and then build the kits to allow people to build their own bikes the same way, right? So I can't do that. Michael can't do it. Michael is an engineer. We then said, well, what else do we need? I'm the entrepreneur. I'm gonna, the entrepreneur's role is to put fire underneath the idea and get people interested in it and line things up, line up the ducks. But then we said, well, I tell you what, Michael, what else do we need? Right, we need Russ Edgar, who's marketing. We need branding. We need marketing. We've got Russ in, and then we've got John, who's again a fantastic engineer. Who he's a fabricator, welder. He's a lot of his stuff he does through Ultimate Gym Equipment. It's again another venture, and then we just split that business. It's a joint venture. It's exactly what you were talking about before. It's joint venture. Kids should be doing that. That should be happening every other week with youngsters. Just go get a couple of your mates, get excited about something, and you haven't got to spend a lot of money. You might all have to go and do some gardens, or go and wash some cars, or go and work in Audi, or go earn money, not just to spunk money and to earning money. So don't get stuck in that cycle, but go and do a job just because it gives you a result of giving you the income. Too many people expect their business to give them income day one. It's bonkers. You need most businesses. How many years do you think most successful businesses run at a loss? Must be a few.
Oh, I mean, I used to always dream in the first few years if I could get my businesses to go to zero within 3 years. I mean, exactly. Not losing money. I was pretty excited. We used to have parties when we got to break even, literally.
Exactly, but that lesson isn't taught, because when you Google it, and this is what kids are doing now, and this is relevant to people that are just starting a business. I know a lot of people a lot of your message. We share this message, especially right now in the next couple of months when there's been redundancies galore in the UK. Millions of people losing their jobs. If you're looking to start a business, don't have that expectation, because you Google it and you go, oh, how do you start a business? And the next thing you know, earn 6 figures a year and have a lifestyle. It's tosh. You need to build something, and that therefore you need to sort your own oxygen mask out first, and that might be that you need to get a supplementary income for 20 hours a week or working over here, or if you're lucky enough that you can go and consult at a decent day rate or whatever, and then fuel your business with the cash that you get from that. I love and I know I'm banging on here, Simon, but I love the idea, and we've done it. I remortgaged me and Christine remortgaged our house when we got started in business and funded it that way. We've maxed out credit cards on making it. I'm not saying this is a good thing to do, but you have to fuel it with something, and it can't just be effort all the time. It can be, but just get used to the fact that it might take you 5 years to get there on your own if you don't actually invest in it, or share some of the pie. Share some of the pie. Then you share.
Totally. I mean, for the audience, first of all, I'm getting a couple of comments. One person just said, "You sound like a wise professor." I think
I'm not.
Education. That might have been a compliment. I'm not sure. Professor, I worry. Wise professor. That's probably true. And someone's like, "What's tosh?" I mean, that's my American audience.
Oh, sorry.
It means absolute rubbish. But I think what you're highlighting there is actually crucial. I mean, I've said many times, my audience is probably sick of hearing it. Like, you get to an island, you've got to burn the boats. Yeah. If you don't have skin in the game, you're not committed. And sometimes in an ironic way, you don't make it. I just interviewed yesterday a founder of a new school, which I'm going to introduce you to, actually, Alex, because I think she'd be a great addition to your community. Plus, she's actually trying to fix the education problem by starting a new school. And I think it's got potential. Atelier 21 Future School, it's called. So I'll send it to you, and I'll put it in the link for anyone that's interested in this, because I think she's amazing. And what I really like about the way that she's thinking about education going forward is that it's all about letting kids almost teach themselves. Yeah. But what she's living that very same thing herself. So, for example, she just signed a lease for this new school in the middle of COVID, right? A massive lease for a very, very expensive commitment that scares her. But she knows if she doesn't sign that lease, the school wouldn't happen. But everyone's telling her, well, don't sign the lease during COVID, or we negotiate, or And she's like, no, I negotiated this already. I'm just going to sign it. And once I've signed it, I'm committed.
Yes.
Whereas if I don't sign it and you get back into negotiation, and yes, I might save some money. And then, so that's the big vision that is, a lot of people would go, oh, you know what, I'm going to pull back in this difficult time instead of what I've always done. And I think, entrepreneurs should do is push forward in these times. Like this is the time you can get amazing people. And the other companies are not learning this 60 to 600 philosophy that you've got. They're going from 600 to 60.
Yeah.
This is the time for you to pick up those 540. I did that in my head, by the way. Did you see that?
Yeah, well done, mate. Well done. Well done.
Didn't use a calculator like some people have to.
Professor Simon.
And I used to be bad at numbers too. Can you believe it? And I just did that straight on. But I definitely think that now is the time, and she's a good example of what you're talking about.
Oh, please do.
I have time. You need a very understanding partner in life. This is another key to being a successful entrepreneur. Because many times I've said to my wife, all the money in our bank account I'm putting into this business. Yeah. She's flinched a few times, but she's the saying is always I trust you, with a slight twitch. But I think that's very important. And ultimately, yes, it could all be lost, but people only regret on their deathbed what they didn't try to do, right? The things that they didn't do. And I also want to go back to something you said about with your son, which I think every parent out there, me included, I'm a new parent. My son's 3 years old. I hope I'm as wise as Alex when my son gets older, because I absolutely hate the question as well, what are you going to do? Oh. It seems like a natural question, a bit like how are you, when you don't really mean it, but I think it's the wrong question. The right question, in my view, is what problem are you going to solve later in life? If you want to ask any question, ask that.
Yeah.
And therefore open up their mind to not how much money can you make, or what I'm going to be a lawyer, or give them something they feel they've got to say, but instead open up their minds to actually, I could solve problems, whatever they are. Yeah. How am I going to then solve that problem? And I just had Rob Finley just comment. He's a fascinating guy. I worked with him, DBS Bank in Asia. Fantastic entrepreneur, now working at Amazon Web Servers, leading it there. And he just made a comment. And remember that it's Rob who's listening now. But Rob is very senior in the entrepreneurial, in the business world and entrepreneurial world. And he's just said entrepreneur apprenticeships are a great idea. And he's absolutely right. I mean, I think maybe, Alex, we can talk offline about this. And anyone listening, I've got 62 people now listening. Anyone listening out there that is interested in helping build something like that, let us know, because I think no one person can solve the problems of unemployment right now. But 1 million entrepreneurs empowered to start businesses with Alex's philosophy of hire 600 people could be a good start.
It would be a great start.
And so I think the entrepreneur apprenticeship is a big gap.
I think it's needed, Simon. It's a requirement. We need, and it's not all about being the number one, being the CEO, being the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship, we need more entrepreneurial thinkers. It's a conversation I have with young kids a lot. So I work with a fantastic organization called Form the Future. And we go into schools and we run enterprise programs. And I can tell you now, you spend a whole day with a class and you split them off into little groups. And we take that exact same approach. I'm not going to lie. They give me a pack of like this sort of size thing when I walk in. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to do the 5 Ps of marketing and whatever else. I'm like, we don't need that. We're not going to need that today. And I just start right out front. What problems are there in the world today? Let's take away any limitation. What problems are there that we can solve today? And the kids come up with crazy ideas. One kid said to me, oh, I saw Elon Musk say, and by the way, the fact that kids are now following the likes of Elon Musk, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, other influencers out there in entrepreneurship. Simon Squibb, of course, Simon Squibb, number one.
You missed the biggest name of them all there. What's wrong with you?
Absolutely. But the fact they're doing that is fantastic. And he said to me, Elon Musk said, if we build a laser on the moon, we can mine asteroids as they come by. And everyone laughed. The kids were laughing around. I said, well, no. Let's look at it. How are we doing that? Let's get it on the board. Who's going to fund it? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to run it? We start to map these things out. So if you allow them to be creative, which is what they're really good at, kids, You want to have kids in your meeting. If we're doing a strategy meeting on a go-to-market plan, for instance, which I've done with Shifties, I'll have Cameron in here, our accountant, Christine, Russ from a branding point of view, and then we might have a couple of the interns here, and they come up with crazy ideas. Some of them are rubbish, and some of them are great, but you allow them to be creative. That's what they're good at.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And again, I just had Vijesh, one of my community, mention entrepreneur residence programs is probably the closest thing to what we're talking about. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur in residence for a few funds where you basically then help the entrepreneurs get better at being an entrepreneur. That's the closest thing. I've never seen an entrepreneur apprenticeship scheme, and I absolutely think that could be really, really.
It should be the careers advice. It's not an option. It wasn't. Didn't know it was a thing. You go to careers advice, and it's only aligned with what course should I go to, what college should I go to, and then what's worse is the government then give funding to the parents to keep them in college, because if they leave college,
I had this with my own nephew. He's forced to stay in so that they can literally eat.
It's fucking sorry. It's disgusting.
It's like the social system in reverse. It's like that. That's also my problem with the 2.1 million people that are almost forced to take a social benefit, where they renamed it now. But it kind of forces people. They're scared to work because they get penalised for working.
It's crazy.
So how can people get themselves out of that nightmare?
I'd pay the parent. I'd happily, if you gave me, I'd happily pay that to a parent. To allow their children, because I get it, the pressures. My mum, by the way, who's a single, so my mum who brought us up, single parent, worked for 3 or 4 jobs to keep food on the table, and she was never really around, bless her. She was always working, and so I have complete empathy and complete sympathy for any parents out there trying to raise kids, and if they're running a business as well, they're like superheroes in my eyes, absolute superheroes. But they need more support.
By the way, I mean, as someone who's a 3-year-old, I've run massive companies with 600 people working for me. Having a 3-year-old and looking after him all day long is the hardest job I've ever done.
I don't doubt it.
So I would hire single mothers and single fathers all day long with no experience, because being able to do that all day long and stay sane and stay active, I mean, that's an achievement. So look, I wanted to talk to you about the government programs, and you started touching on some of it there. I know you've got a lot of insight and knowledge and thoughts on that. I'm frustrated personally with the UK government in particular right now, because I'm based here, seeing that they're just trying to create zombie jobs with this job scheme, and they're not helping entrepreneurs or people start businesses of their own, which I think is the equivalent of giving people a bag of rice for a week and saying, there you go, you've survived, instead of giving people the tools to go and make their own rice or dig their own field. And so I think that's a problem, a big problem.
The issue there, Simon, is with the Kickstart thing. For me, is one thing we'll say with an asterisk here is the detail of which is not completely revealed yet. I think in August we'll hear more detail. But on the headlines of it is right. You can offer, basically, the government are happy to pay minimum wage for up to 25 hours a week, which is fine. That sounds great on the front of it, right? Great. I've got a resource of 25 hours a week. But that person and that role has to be a role that didn't exist before or isn't in your strategy, essentially. The person has to be on universal tax credits and deemed long-term, not unemployable, but long-term. I can't remember the terminology, but essentially they don't have much chance in having a career. So I'm like, I want to help people like that without a shadow of a doubt. But and the conversation that I will have with the people that join our organization is a conversation we have right up front. Their mindset needs to be right. They need to want it. They need to be on it. They need to be up for it, because that's such a crucial element of it. So if you're telling me I can only take on people that are deemed to be long-term at risk of being unemployed and or on universal tax credits, that for me is a worrying sign, depending on the thing. If it's because they have worked in an industry that may potentially no longer be about because of AI or robots or whatever in 10 years, that's different. But for me, you're right. It worries me. Why? If you're going to give 25 hours minimum wage coverage to someone for 6 months, give it to a young entrepreneur to give them the chance, to give them a sandbox to start their business. It's the same problem we have on the high street, the same issue we have out here. And we've been, as you know, taking on properties to repurpose them as momentum hubs. But it's the same issue. You can't expect someone to take a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year lease on a property with a 5-year break and 6 months worth of cash up front to do it. Entrepreneurs need a sandbox. We need to be able to explore.
Test the idea out, figure out if it's going to work. I mean, this whole subject, it kind of, there's so much to unpack here. I have to have you back on, Alex, I think.
That's fine, mate. Whenever you like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to discuss this at length. And I think, like you said, in defense of every government in the world right now, it's complicated. And I think what I don't like is hiding behind that point, though. Yeah. It's complicated. We can only help some of the people, because what their government in the UK are doing with their build policy, and now this job policy, is just copying and pasting what happened in the 90s.
Yep.
And the good thing about that is we've actually got case studies of what actually happened. Right? And what actually happened is, when you're paying the wages of someone and people bring them in, big companies benefit, first of all, because they can suddenly get free labor. So, the big companies that didn't necessarily need that break got that break. Now, in fairness, again, some of them are actually rejecting the money, which is nice to see.
Which is good, yeah.
But, most of them won't. The ones that do are getting PR from it, so maybe that's encouraging them to do it. But they'll just take those big checks from the government and carry on. They were going to hire them anyway because they needed people to serve in their restaurants or to whatever. I think what's I guess frustrating is that the case study shows that as soon as this handout stops, those people don't get a job anymore.
No,
so it doesn't, because, like you say, because it's not part of their strategy necessarily. They either had a job or they didn't have a job for those people.
Yeah.
And as soon as the money stops coming from the government, the job will stop. Whereas if you gave people that money and said, here's a sandbox, and there's plenty of case studies out there. Channel 5 did a great program, by the way. They actually took people that were on social service money, which is about £30,000 a year. Instead of giving it to them every month with this, don't get a job or you'll lose that money, they gave it to them at the beginning of the year.
Yes,
said,
yes.
And let's see what we can do in 12 months. 4 out of those 5 people started self-sustaining businesses. They didn't need that money after the first year.
Yep.
And they had self-worth, and they felt fulfilled.
And control.
They don't want to take from the system, despite people's image of people on that benefit system. Most people don't want to be on that benefit system.
No, of course they don't.
And there's always going to be people that are, injured or in a position where they have to lean on the state. And I think that's our responsibility to help those people.
Agreed.
But a lot of people are just trapped in the system. So what the government should be doing, and I know, we're both entrepreneurs, but, I just think it makes so much common sense that they should be giving money to people to help them start a business of their own. And like you say, quite rightly, sandbox it. So maybe it's a collaboration with the high street landlords and say, look, is it good to take no rent for 2 years and rebuild the future of the high street so that you have a property worth anything 5 years from now? Otherwise, all of those properties are just going to be, the high street is going to be full of flats. There's going to be places that people live in, which is fine.
They've changed the planning, mate. They've now said, so from August, September it is, you can now basically shortcut planning to turn commercial into residential. There's now, that's what they do. Whereas, I mean, I'm going to turn the camera around and show you one of the biggest pities of St. Neots. This is the most beautiful building as a centerpiece of St. Neots, and look at it. This is what it's been like for years.
St. Neots, by the way, folks, if anyone listening in America, in Hong Kong, I know a lot of folks there. This is my hometown, by the way, and this is a beautiful little hometown. Oh, wow, that should not happen. So, yeah. Beautiful, prime, historic building, boarded up.
And I've messed up with my setup, and it's all a mess.
It's all right. I think the listeners don't mind. They got to see St. Neots maybe the first time in their lives. You gave them an experience.
I'm going to put it here now so I don't look like a complete fool as I try to do that. So yeah, it's just, give us a chance, man. Don't make us have to spend 5 years building the capital and building the investor network to go and have to buy that and do it ourselves. Work with us and support the local entrepreneurs and the high streets. Actually turn this place into a positive experience for everyone.
I couldn't agree. I mean, and again, I want to blame the government because I think their policies are wrong, but I also think there's a role to play in private enterprise. So I don't know who owns that building. I don't want to pick on them. They've got a mortgage. They've got their own costs. But point is that people have to think creatively right now. You can't just sit on a property and let it. This happened a lot in Hong Kong, by the way. Just sharing culturally, people would not rent out a property for below a certain amount of money because they wouldn't show a yield amount, and therefore the property value wasn't high enough. It's completely the wrong strategy. It's where capitalism goes wrong, in my view. Yeah. It's about creating life and excitement, and like you're doing with your hubs, you've got to have community. We still need a community, like we are human beings. I know we've had a period of time here where we can't hug and shake hands, but we are tactile race, and that we get energy from those ecosystems. That's why pubs are so popular in England. Let's face it, it's not the beer. Right? Probably not the food, not the food. but come to England, folks. It's a wonderful place.
You're welcome to come and visit anytime.
Pub lunches, but
if you're a business owner, investor, or entrepreneur in any form, you're very welcome to come and say hi.
Yeah, and at the same time, can you please help people that maybe are less fortunate than you start a business of their own, which in turn, long term, will mean that they will make you richer. Okay, Absolutely. They will eventually pay you rent. They will eventually give you income and give you at least a good place to go and hang out. So reduce your rent. I just had a friend of mine. It's crazy. She runs a school here in London, doing an amazing job for the 0 to 5-year-olds, and the landlord has just doubled the rent on her. In this time and this place where she's literally all day long spending time figuring out the new government policies about whether or not she can educate our children, and now she's going to have to close. She survived COVID, and now she has to bloody.
And that's where this cliff edge is coming. What's next? What's the next thing to fall over the cliff edge? And that's you now have this flurry. You're seeing it. You're seeing all the redundancies and stuff coming. What scares me, and it genuinely scares me deep down, is what is the impact going to be in 2 months' time? Because we talk about starting your own business and owning your own business, and the opportunity, if you've got that opportunity to start your own business, do it. And with Simon's content and the community that we've got in Shifties, the combination of those things will help you do that. But for those that aren't that way inclined, what about these guys? So there is this social impact piece that needs to be bolted on to entrepreneurship and capitalism, where bring a neighbor, right? So it's like my mum, bless her, and she won't mind me saying, she now works for the company. My mum works here, and her job description is office mum. That's her description. She makes everyone feel welcome. She makes everyone feel happy. And yes, she's got stuff that obviously there's a lot more to her role than just that. Making sure the hubs are all working and coordinated well. But bring someone along and support them. That's my mum. So of course I've got that emotional draw to make sure that my mum's looked after, and I will always make sure my mum's looked after for the rest of her life. But what about your neighbor? What about someone, there's not that many people. If we just take St. Neots as an example, it's 40,000 people here. If we just make sure we look to the left and right a little bit more and say, well, could you buy that guy on the street breakfast this morning? Or, could you, if someone is starting up, maybe you could spare them an hour of your time just to offer them some support without any actual expectation of selling them something. It's about thinking much bigger than just yourself, because as you rightfully say, and the studies have been done, independent business growth, look at Hitchin as a perfect example. Independent business growth within an economy, within a town like this sort of size, will increase the house prices for everyone. So everyone in the town will benefit by their houses being worth more from having a thriving high street. You're going to increase the fun that's around. I mean, St. Neots is great. We have lots of amazing events throughout the year. They could be a lot better, and we'll look to contribute to that in the future. But there's so much more. There's so much benefit to the towns and the societies and communities we live in if we all just focus a bit more on other people than just ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. Anyone listening to this broadcast today, perhaps share it with other communities. We should pull together something around this, because I think
cool, man.
It's like a manifesto, isn't it? It's like And I sometimes think we rely too much on government to solve all of our problems.
Absolutely.
And
We don't need them.
private sector could do a lot of what we're talking about here. They could create an entrepreneurship apprenticeship scheme. They could support with letting people have a sandbox in each hometown that people live in to start a business. And they could pour resources into creating the next generation of success stories that then employ good people to do interesting, exciting things. So, and just a heartwarming story, because you mentioned Hitchin. Connor Wells, who does all my editing and all my videos, I think, I know I mentioned him, you know, Roxy, his friend. He was telling me a story about he was in Hitchin in the drive-through McDonald's there. So we get all the way back to McDonald's now. And someone in front, he was with his future wife sitting there, so it wasn't a flirty thing, bought him a free drink and sent it back once. So in other words, they said, here's a free drink from the people in front.
That's amazing.
Right? Now, maybe he couldn't afford that drink and they bought it for him, but he could afford it. So he bought the person buying him some drinks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I like that until eventually it gets to someone that's like, oh, I really needed that because I couldn't afford to buy myself a drink today, and that just that whole, giving spirit. It's a little gesture, but that literally made his day. And he actually didn't get anything from it, it wasn't like it made my day because I got a free tenner, it was just that experience of someone doing something nice without any expectation in return. I think I did it when I was 20, but I liked the girl behind me or something, so I had an agenda.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. They did it because it was just passing on kindness, doing something nice for people. And so I think that that would be a nice message to take away.
You need to get over here, Simon. You need to come over to St. Neots. We need to grab a coffee, and we need to start this, having a more strategic conversation around this, because there are other people. I'm having conversations with other organizations like Peter Jones's foundation, for instance, that are very interested in getting involved in something like this. There's a lot of support for this sort of thing right now, and it couldn't come at a better time. So you need to get you over here. Let's grab a beer and some grub and talk about this properly.
Sounds good, mate. I'm definitely planning on it. Getting out of London seems so difficult right now for some reason, but it's just jumping in the car and making the effort. So I'll definitely be there soon. Thanks so much. Someone just said, the Sandbox Manifesto. You better trademark that. I think that's going to be.
Oh yeah, bring it on.
So thanks, Vishesh, for that. All right, guys. Thanks, Alex, for joining. Really nice to chat to you, mate. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, and you. See
you soon. Right, folks. Well, that was Alex, an inspirational entrepreneur with loads of knowledge, a fantastic network, the Shifties Network. So please, I put the links down below. Please go join his network. Say hello to him on LinkedIn. He'll inspire you. And maybe you'll just end up starting a business with him. Who knows? But I want to thank you all for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. We've run over a little bit, so thank you to all those folks that are still listening. I appreciate it. I hope you found it useful. If you have any views on what we've discussed today, please drop a comment below. If you like any of the initiatives that we've discussed and feel like getting involved or leading them with mine and Alex's support, feel free to ping us, direct message on any of the social channels that either Alex has or myself. I personally want to say a big thank you to Rob, Vishesh, Alex, Mark, John, all for your comments today. Diana, thank you for joining. I appreciate all you guys and your contribution. Really kind of you to jump on and give a little bit and kind of in the spirit of what we were saying at the end there. There's ways to give right now that don't necessarily cost you anything, but it really could make a big difference. And I think right now the whole planet needs our help. And so do what you can. I'm here every Wednesday morning talking to talented entrepreneurs like Alex, both sharing knowledge and figuring out ways that we can help those entrepreneurs. And so please feel free to join every Wednesday. Perhaps hit the subscribe button so you don't miss these broadcasts. And feel free to let me know if there's anyone we should have on the show and help, or if there's anyone on the show that can come on and bring knowledge to the community. I'd be grateful. Don't forget, tomorrow, 10 a.m., we have Adele Lim. She's LA-based writer. You might not know her name, but you'll know her work. She was the writer for Crazy Rich Asians, which was a smash hit, billion-dollar franchise out now. She co-wrote that whole movie, and she'll be live tomorrow, 10 a.m., telling me her story about how she broke into TV, how she became an entrepreneurial writer, which I think is interesting. A lot of people don't see themselves as entrepreneurs if they're writers, but absolutely they are. You can become an entrepreneur writer too by listening to her story. Or if you are a writer today, maybe listening to her story will inspire you. At the very least, I promise you an entertaining 1 hour. Adele is a colourful character, says it as it is. She's got a fascinating story about how she built her credentials in the TV and now film world. She's now working with Disney, creating content that brings cultural awareness to the world in an animated series, which I think is an absolutely fantastic way to educate people about culture. And so please join us tomorrow morning. If you can't make the live broadcast where Adele will be and you can ask her questions, that's totally fine. That's the way it is. Feel free to join on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can listen to the broadcast anytime on YouTube. You can catch all the broadcasts on many, many channels. I think we're on 22 channels now, something like that. You can catch all the different communication channels on Good Luck Pod for the podcasts. And if you want to talk to me any Wednesday morning and share your story, get help from my community, you can just reach out via simonsgroup.com. And myself and Talia, who's moderating this for me today, will be able to schedule you in and see how we can help you. So that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining this morning. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day and give back a bit today if you can in any way. Thank you. See you later.